Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to In the Zone. Pete Coles, Rich Sutter, the dynamic duo of the hoop world. We're bringing it to you straight down the baseline, folks. Got a lot to get into today, even though it's a little bit, August, everybody thinks it's going to be a quiet time for hoops, but the hoops people have made it a thing to try and be in the news all the time. And right now, I think they're doing a pretty good job of it, at least letting the WNBA soak up some of that attention that it's getting right now. As they say in the business, bad publicity is better than no publicity.
That's true.
And I think that's where we're at.
Yep.
But to start In the Zone every week, we come off in Pete's Corner. It's a hot segment of the show. Pete lays out 3 questions for us, and the fans, have also had the ability to participate in this a little bit. We've taken a couple of questions from the outside, but Pete does an outstanding job of getting this ready every week, and I go on the blind. We don't know the questions. I have no idea. I do kind of knowing Pete a little bit now. Like I've known him, I do kind of know. Like last week he blew my socks off like Charlie Brown. So there was no knowing what was coming down that railroad track. But over time I've gotten an idea a little bit of where to go, but I do not have the questions. And so here we go. We're off in Pete's Corner. Shot 1 over the bow. Boom.
All right, shot number 1. Do you think this was a warranted ejection?
Rhythm anyway. Cloud finding an angle, and just like that, a 6-point basketball game. Chicago staying in it. Natasha Cloud. And right before the break, this was the scene inside Wintrust Arena after Natasha Cloud got that bucket. She wanted her voice heard. We have talked about the conversations surrounding the W. That is Enes Kanter in the building today. And he has voiced how...
That's a good start. That's a good start.
So the WNBA has ruled that Enes Kanter and or the other couple of people that have come out and declared themselves as women for the draft are not eligible for the WNBA draft, but they won't say why.
Yeah, that's kind of the legal version of nah.
They won't say why.
Don't look at me. They're just hoping this thing goes away. It's not going to go away. And the way they handled this thing last week, just the clip that Pete just showed, is going to ensure that it doesn't go away. All right, so what happened? They have a WNBA game, Enes Kanter, and again, I would say that they kind of erred here as well. A couple of different things. Number one, you don't tell them you're coming.
Yep.
Right? You're a millionaire. You can buy your own tickets.
Yep.
All right?
And there's no name associated with the ticket if you just buy a ticket.
Just go in and sit and watch the game. That's fine. But then you announce to everybody that you were coming. You had your people call their people and make an announcement, which does happen all the time with famous people, especially people that are so famous they might need some accommodations, privacy accommodations. You can't let Taylor Swift just walk into, a regular arena and she's not going to be mobbed by thousands and thousands of fans. You just couldn't do it. So there's certain concerns there, but Enes Kanter doesn't really rise to that level. But he did make the call. Secondly, if you're telling everybody you're a woman, you didn't look like one there.
Yep.
You're out in public and you're transitioning or what you're doing, I really don't know. I think you're just being a kind of stick in the mud, honestly, with this thing. I think that they called it on their own. They were doing it on their own. But to think that this would come from a former professional basketball player, to me, is a little bit, it's odd. I'm going to just say it right now.
Yeah.
It's a little bit odd. But, again.
It's called a troll.
The reaction of the league, of the arena people, again, the reaction, I'm unsure why everything in life right now has to be so divisive. Mm-hmm. Everything, and I mean everything, has to be divisive right now, including this. And so I don't understand why there was an issue. Did he say something after the basket? It was clearly, as I think it was Caitlin Clark, you could see her walking off the court. She was signaling to the referee that it was a travel. It was clearly a travel in my eyes, but they didn't call it. Was there something said by him, his camp, anybody, to warrant the fact that that young lady went back after him?
She went off on him, too.
If she just went off on him for no reason, you're trying to get your clicks, you're trying to get your face in the paper, you're trying to become famous too. And the way that everybody's trying to become famous these days is to show how divisive you can actually be. And so that's the game right now. And that's where we are, just driven off into sides with each other.
I liked last week what you said was ignore him.
Let him watch the game.
Not even that. Ignore him for the draft. Ignore him for the league. Just ignore him.
Well, let's go into that bit of it. Do you think that's possible?
Yep.
To just ignore them?
Yeah.
To not draft them?
You can declare for the draft and just not draft. Nope, don't want you. We've watched it happen in other sports leagues.
I don't know that there would be anything this egregious where you would be potentially, it would be the best player in your league, and you're keeping them out. Again, like you said before, what's the reason? And has the WNBA broached this already? Has this line been broached already? We're 100% sure that we haven't had this already. I'm not so sure.
All the WNBA had to say is, you have to be a woman.
But if they have broached it before, there's precedent.
Okay.
Is what I'm saying. They've done it before. It's just like the NCAA when they're trying to figure out these waivers and that waiver, but you did it before. And so if they have any knowledge of this, then I don't know how you would keep them out legally. I think this also might just go away because they may just be poking at them and trying to get attention. And right now they've gotten the attention, but, you know, how far are you willing to take this?
Right. Have you made your point and move on?
You know, and if you're not willing to take this, does it cause the WNBA to at least come to some scientific approach to this? Whereas, are you actively transitioning as a male to female, or are you just, because if you're just, now you've opened the door for anybody to say whatever they want without actually having to have any pound of flesh in the game.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Now, if you're doing that, if that's your qualification, right, now is transitioning a business decision and not a gender dysphoria decision. I think this is where we're getting to.
That's a great point.
Is it a business decision?
Well, it should never be.
I know, but
that's where I think you need to be a little more scientific. Are you on hormones? Are you decreasing your testosterone down to a certain level? Because that's what's in the Olympics, right?
But couldn't you see a former NBA player that got cut start that process to go into another league to continue their career?
I can see old guys trying this. Some guy years ago down on his luck and didn't make a boatload of money in the NBA, and now he's out there and he's down on his luck. I could tell you a few guys right now. One guy's name is Delonte West. He's been homeless for years and years. If you would allow him to go in there, he can certainly make a living right now, right this minute. And so,
but these are the unintended consequences that they don't realize when they're
it absolutely is. It absolutely is. And it's not going to go, you're ignoring it all of this time, without having laid out some parameters of that, without having the expectation that this day would come. And in order to protect your organization, that's what I'm a little bit surprised at, is that there hasn't been something laid out in WNBA manuals, in their bylaws, in their legislation that they operate with, that has something to do along this line. I don't know that it does or it doesn't.
According to Enes Kanter, he quoted some WNBA regulation or something that says all he has to do is say he's a woman and that's it.
it's you know, it's they say the door was left open, but it's actually Pandora's box.
Yeah.
It's
But
actually
again, that's what I'm
Pandora's
saying.
box.
It's like, I can understand if you have gender dysphoria and you're transitioning, I get it, right? But if Enes Kanter has made a business decision, he wants to become a woman to play in a women's league because he's been blackballed out of the NBA. So now he's making it's not for gender dysphoria, it's a business decision, and that's the problem. And
so you go back and now you'll say, okay, so let me draw a parallel for you. Guys who want to stay around in the NCAA longer now.
That was going to be question 2.
Right, because now you have, I'm NIL, this is my job, I don't want to leave, I want to keep staying here. You know, that's the other rub against it, that for years they never defined what's a student athlete. You know, what are these things? They're definitional.
They have legal consequences.
You know? And to be honest, in my heart of hearts, you know, I think that you can have the freedom to be anything that you want in this world and in this country, and I would support that. But what's happening now isn't that. What's happening now isn't that. It's a few that are making this thing unruly for everyone.
Yep.
And it's coming male to female only. The traffic's only moving in one direction. Mm-hmm. And it's deleterious to a group of people in our country that are under this lack of clarity, for just trying to say it in a nice way.
Yeah.
You know, it lacks for clarity for sure. But you have, because in our system, we're supposed to try to do no harm to people. And I certainly want to give consideration to those individuals as well. But at that same moment, you have to give consideration to the other people who might be aggrieved in this situation. That's the part of this that has really been odd to me, is that nobody has looked at that side and said, what about these poor young people that are getting the raw end of this, that are getting the bad end of this? Nobody's looking at high school basketball players now who are seniors in high school who aren't being recruited in the normal recruiting mode right now because they're letting the guys stick around forever. And they're also allowing guys to come in internationally, and they're flooding it from all different directions. And now the high school senior basketball player is minuscule. You can't see them almost anymore in this formula. They've been almost eradicated. If you're a top 100 player, you have a different life. No question about that. But for the most part, this thing has gone down to a really, it's been funneled down really tightly, and it is impacting other people's lives. With the high school seniors that are out there now, they're under a completely different set of circumstances than the ones that I was under when I tried to get recruited. Completely different. And so nobody seems to have the sagacious wisdom to be able to craft something. And I guess if I have more time, maybe I'll look into this and see what's possible and doable. But nobody in either one of those two situations has been able to craft a solution that's fair to both sides. And that's the part that really rubs me, because in this country, that's what we used to strive for. We used to look for to keep it comprehensive, to have both sides considered. And right now, it's not. It's different. It's ideologically driven. It's the courts are involved, and that's even worse than some of the stuff that's coming out of what the NCAA's tried to do. I'm not sure that the courts, what their corrective measures aren't more deleterious than what the NCAA was doing for years. Because look at what they've created. Look at what they've done right now, especially in the NIL. And look what they're about to do to the WNBA, just for not being able to come clear.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to 2. I'm anticipating this one because it got wetted a little bit.
All right, so on the football side, Big Ten, SEC, and Big 12 have all passed rules preventing former NFL players from returning to play college football. Does that also transfer over to the basketball side, or has NCAA lost complete control now of regulation in the college space.
So what you're talking about is leagues doing this, though.
Yep.
Yeah. So the leagues are stepping up and handling their own business. I applaud them for that. I applaud them for that because somebody has to step in and make something work here. What they're saying now is, at least there's several conferences that have done this, and they're the big ones. The SEC, the Big Ten, some of them are now moving in this direction. The group that just joined, and I want to say it's the Big 12, came along with this. They're going all sports, Pete.
Well, that's what I was reading other articles.
They're making a blanket statement, all sports.
Yep.
Which is, to me, if you're going to try this, that's the intelligent thing to do.
You have to.
It has to be fair. Whatever we're going to do here moving forward is going to be fair. But this is going to bring me into another piece that I've been really, really excited to try and explore with people on the show, because what Pete's talking about right now is, the NIL, everything in college basketball just turned right side upside down.
Yep.
So they're paying guys who used to be pros. They're paying guys who were in the G League. They're paying guys who went over to Europe and made a boatload of money. They're allowing this, and they've allowed it for years and years and years.
They're allowing European pros to come in to play college ball.
Right. And now that was the door that opened to say, well, why can't American pros? And this is where the battle line is going to be drawn. Some of the conferences now are saying if you have, and they have a couple of stipulations, I'll talk about those in a minute, but if you have been drafted, been on a pro roster, been in the G League, they were specific for the basketball, if you've been in the G League, we're not bringing you in.
That's like going to AAA
We're
baseball.
not going to do it.
Yeah.
They also have, which I think, they're in such murky water right now. But at least what I'm seeing of this, I think they're at least proceeding with some strength and veracity. So the other thing, too, is they're going to suspend coaches who don't apply by this rule. I don't know what else measures they're going to do, because you could suspend the coach. How long are you going to suspend them for? Is it a game, 2 games? Is it going to be significant? Because that won't stop somebody like Will Wade at LSU from blowing through this thing and bringing in whoever he wants. Now, is it going to be punitive? You get a game for every player. You get, if you have 5 players, is it, so I didn't get all of that.
I don't think they fleshed all that out yet, though.
Yeah, and that's what they're basically talking about, in this whole thing. And what I'm looking for right now is a little bit of a couple of things that brought some understanding to this. And
I saw there was a comment
is.
from the NCAA saying they were waiting for the government to fix their problem.
Well, they have been saying that. They're looking for because they keep getting beat. They keep losing, and I get it. Baker came in, and he was a guy who threw up his hands and said, "Hey, wait a second, we're going to lose. We're going to lose in court. We're going to lose quite a bit." And so he's a guy who just came in and said, "This is the reality, and we're going to lose, and so we're not going to fight these things." And when they did fight them, they've been losing as well too. So I think it helps them a little bit to have the leagues, especially the big power conferences that are out there, to step up and say, "We're not doing this." Okay, as a league, we're not doing this. Now, this does, unless you get some unanimity, because they voted unanimously, but unless you get this thing across the board with all Division I schools who will agree to this, you're still opening the door.
Well,
you're
wait a
still
minute.
opening Pandora's box for somebody to say, our league doesn't have that rule, we'll take them all.
But maybe, well, wait a minute. Flip side that one. Does that now mean that a mid-level conference can start bringing in former players and improve their lot in life and not have to compete against the Power 5 conferences?
That's what I was just alluding to. If they don't go blanket with this across the whole board, if conferences only select an SEC and the Big 12 and the Big 10, and they're all being virtuous, and I like that, I think this is the way to go. But unless you get, what's to stop those mid-conferences who've been getting pummeled?
But is this by, wait a minute, but is this by design? Are they allowing that backdoor to the mid-level conferences to make it seem like there's parity in Division I and the power conferences aren't the power conferences?
My estimation of it is, I've tried to be, no question, and I think I can answer that. I think my estimation of it is the way that things have gone. If you looked at the field and the way the game has been played on the field, they've been trying to destroy mid-major Division I.
I know.
And so are they trying to bring it back and toss them a bone? I doubt it. And I doubt they'll let that go through unless it goes through where everybody's involved, and they got the ability to lay the political heat on that too. They're going to set the tone. Hopefully everybody else is going to comply. But like I said, there is no guarantee right now that that's not going to happen somewhere else. And now you're talking about a guy who has a mid-major program, and maybe, the problem there you're going to run into is they run out of money a lot faster than the guys up top run out of money. So unless they get into some industry and they get into some really, really heavy bake sailing and start raising a lot more money than they have, that's probably going to be a little bit tough. Like, you couldn't do that at some of the mid-majors that I'm aware of. The low-major schools don't have any money. But if these guys are looking to play and they're looking to get in, and maybe they got more years of eligibility, they can go in for 1 year at a low level and then move up and get a good NIL deal.
Could these colleges offer an advanced degree to these guys? And now that actually means something, because if you're not going to be able to play in the NBA, you've been cut. Right? Does now an advanced degree or even finishing your bachelor's mean something? Because that would, if you're going to leave from college and go into the workforce, that may actually have some weight to it.
So I'm going
to. We're just brainstorming here, but
no.
Think about all these
awesome.
unintended consequences.
But here's the things that they came up with: previously declared for draft but did not withdraw properly. Signed contract, inclusive of the G League, any signed contracts, been listed on the roster of a pro team. Those are kind of the three things that they've laid out here. But here's what I wanted to say, and maybe we said it a little bit last week, but I wanted to jump into this just a little bit this week, because Pete's hitting on a lot of things here that are really, really critical into what's going on in basketball right now. And so what you're saying also, though, is, because we got to go back, but believe it or not, the NCAA years ago didn't let freshmen participate.
Red shirt.
They weren't allowed to play. All the way up to when Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was entering UCLA. That probably was one of the impetuses of that changed this, because they became branded and they said, we need the best guys up here right away. We need Jabbar up here right away. He doesn't sit for the first year. And so that became the mantra. But then there was also other things that occurred, like when Wilt Chamberlain was at Kansas, they used to throw the ball over the top of the backboard to him, and he would catch it and lay it in. And it was an out-of-bounds play that was almost impossible to stop. The NCAA then put in a rule that said you can't do that anymore.
Right.
The NCAA also had a no-dunking rule back in the day. You weren't allowed to do this. The NCAA had a rule that said you had to have an 820 and a 2.0 GPA, or a 700 it was one time before they moved it and changed the SAT score. But an ACT or an SAT score and a GPA from an accredited school you had to be eligible. Okay, then you became proposition of Prop 48, where it was a proposition where you became, where then you had to almost go to junior college and you had to compete there, and then you had to finish your degree there to be considered for Division I and move on. But they had all of these rules, okay? But at no time did the courts jump in and say, you got to go back and let Wilt Chamberlain dunk some basketballs.
Right.
They didn't say at some time, you got to go back and let Rick Barry play his freshman year over again. These guys had already moved on, gone to the pros or whatever, but this is where we're at right now, where the courts are getting involved in this. The NCAA used to have some jurisdiction, and what they've been able to prove in order to bring it into the court is that the NCAA was breaking the law, actually. They were not
breaking labor law.
Well, not necessarily breaking it, but not following it in their mantras. And that's how they kind of got into this whole thing with them. And bad for the NCAA, no bueno for the NCAA for not anticipating, not seeing this might be coming, and being able to put in some other legislation which would derail this. Years ago, I said to people, you can solve this. Because we just alluded to last week, Penn State's men's basketball team is making $127,000. That's their revenue.
Yep.
And so you might be able to tilt that number another way and say, well, their revenue was actually higher and it wasn't offset with expenses. But that formula we showed everybody had offsets. And so you spent, you brought it in, you spent it, you brought it in, you spent it. You're $127,000 in the green. You're on the green side. You made some money, but that's your NIL number too. Then can't have $1 million NIL number when you're $127,000 worth of revenue. You can't take all of the expenses, eliminate them from the formula, and say this is their revenue number, which is the way a lot of schools are working. We brought it in. You didn't ever count what you spent. And so there are normal accounting practices as well, that you're coming at these numbers, and now you're looking at 127,000, but their payroll has to be way, way higher than that to compete in that won't get you one player right now in the Big Ten. That won't bring one player to Penn State. And so you have the football team, and this is what I foresee down the line here is football team made 50 plus million.
Right.
And then everybody else got fed off that 50 million.
What happens when the football team says, no bueno, we need the money for NIL?
100%. That's where I was going with. What happens when football says, we're locking it up? We're locking it up. You're not going to get any of this money. We're going to keep it in-house. We're going to have our rosters, because there are 120 guys on a football team. Years and years ago, I believe it was Texas A&M, they got lit up by the NCAA because they took every single one of their football players and put them on a payroll. They paid them every month. They paid all of the guys on their football team, whatever it was, $1,000 a month, so you're $120,000 a month, times X amount of months. That's what their pay was. And they got caught. They got rung up for it. But almost, they were genius.
Yeah.
Because they showed us that there was a way to do this without doing it so drastically, so carelessly, and so absolutely out of line with almost every business practice in the world. You can't be a rapper and get that kind of return on your investment. You have all of these offsets that you got to pay. You got to pay for your club. You got to pay for the DJs. You got to pay for everything. Boom, 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 boom. And then they go, his net worth is, because they're actually counting all of the offsets. So all of these guys right here are walking around going, I get $1 million when they haven't produced that revenue. And so it's crazy right now. Crazy. And that's what they need in order to compete. In their league, you need 15 million right now. They're at 127K. Where will the 14 plus million come from? And how are you validating that with the NCAA other than to say we're just paying them? And my thing years ago was start paying all of them. Start paying all of the student athletes stipends. And if you want to increase the stipend based upon the amount of revenue, you want to say a football player gets $10,000 a year, $1,000 a month, I'm okay with that. They have spending money. They're not allowed to work, because what would happen is why they weren't allowed to work. Because the car dealer down the street would say, yeah, he works for me, and pay him crazy money. And so there's all these things that the NCAA has been fighting, and now they're getting slayed in the courts, but you can't tell me it's going better. It's not.
No, it's way worse.
So I hope we gave that a good answer for the people. Pete, let's roll into 3.
All right. We're back to school. When does basketball really start getting going for you? Like, are you starting now, or are you, because your season starts in a couple of months?
I coach the golf team.
Okay.
So that's what starts for me now. I got to get them ready. We'll have our MASCAC tournament in the fall semester. Golf is a fall and a spring sport, and so we do both, And then, so I'll start off with that. Right now, I'm talking to all my golfers, trying to get them ready. We'll have a meeting. We'll lay all that out. At the same moment, the captains will start their practice with the basketball team. So they won't be with me, but they'll be playing every day, lifting, running, doing things that are going to prepare them for what I tell them my first practice is going to feel like. I tell you, I tell them right up front, you have 6 weeks to get ready. Use it wisely.
So the sophomores, juniors, seniors kind of have an idea what that's about, and the whole point of a captain's practice is to educate the freshmen coming in?
Yeah, but also to get in shape.
Yeah, okay.
But to get the freshmen on board, to acculturize them, if you will, to bring them into our culture. This is what we do. I know I've heard people saying, like to freshmen, like Coach Sutter doesn't want anybody to wear a headband in practice. And the freshman, you're like, well, I wear my headband all the time. He goes, and you don't anymore. Okay, Coach Sutter might not want. There's some things that I might have, but I don't necessarily lay them out as rules for everybody. But when the oral culture of our program transpires down, the guys will say, "Hey, when Coach lets us have water, we have to run there." And when we're done breaking from the water, we have to run out and we got to run up to the baseline and be ready for him. And so there's certain expectations that I have that they'll kind of illuminate with each other. And the captains and the players that have been around are the ones that know that, because they might have had to run a mile or something because they didn't take care of business, And so there's this stuff of, that's a good point that you have also, because like when you're in there, how do you punish your team? How do you get them, punitively? You have to go after them sometimes. They're doing stuff wrong. How do you punish them? Everybody, 5 guys showed up late on a Saturday morning. You know why they showed up late. I was 21 as well, right? But 5 guys showed up late. What are you going to do with them?
What's the consequence?
If you ignore it, then 10 guys show up late next week.
Correct.
And so you have to have consequence, and you have to have action that leads to that. And so that's where I'm at in the beginning of the year also, is even with them before we start practice, we're getting all of that stuff as much lined up as we can. You're in a lunchroom, speak to people respectfully. You're in the classroom, do not sit in the back of the class with your headset on. Professors hate that. You're in there, do the work, and be able to ask questions of your professor so that he knows that you're engaged.
Those are good rules for life.
Yeah, we gotta, you gotta get them right away too.
Yeah.
Because the first semester is everything in college. I'll say that to anybody who's going right now to getting ready to go to college, your first semester is the rest of your life. If you get off to a great start, you're Gucci. Get off to a really bad start, you might get thrown out. You might be put on academic warning. You might have to go to junior college to repair. You might have to take classes over intersession just to make it back to where you were supposed to be. So when you go in there and get ready to fight, you got to go in there and you got to play it straight, but it's that first semester that's everything. First and second semester. I don't want to go crazy on people, but there's about 28% of the people that enter into college that don't make it beyond sophomore year. 28%. That's hot.
I believe that.
That's a hot number. And the thing also is when people leave, sometimes if you don't re-enroll in another school within 10 months, your loans become due. You have problems when that all goes down. It becomes a funnel. It becomes that circling at the drain, and a lot of people, will also at that time realize that college isn't for them. Pete, 3 great ones. Let's roll. In the zone baselines, Jonathan Kuminga. Been bounced around, warrior guy. I always thought he'd be good. He's very talented. He's joining the Timberwolves, 2-year deal, and he's going to get $12.4 million. That's not a bad deal for 2.4, but you look at this thing, I got a cramp in my leg from pickleball this morning. I have to, sorry, I'm moving around so much. But when you look at these numbers, you say Jaylen Brown's getting almost 60 right now, and they just got this guy for 6. So there's deals that you can make in the NBA that can really, really bring you around and get you solid, So Jeannie Buss has asked the court, we talked about this last week, she still retained 17.5% of the Lakers, and her siblings, the 4 of them, want to sell the shares that they have in the Lakers. And one of the reasons I found out for this is I think the brother is trying to buy a share in the Padres.
Oh.
He's trying to get into the San Diego Padres. We talked about last week about, the owner and how this all lays out. And now Kushner and Iger are coming in. It could be a mess. I don't know. Like, Pete, walk me through that. What does a judge say to Jeannie Buss when you have 4 siblings who want to sell? She's the only one who doesn't. A court a couple of years back said she has to be involved. Her and her dad have to agree to this, but I don't know how you would do that. You have a voting share, right? Maybe she has a lot of the votes. I don't know.
Depends on how the will was structured.
True.
If she was left as sole control, they can fight all they want. But if the will dictates that she's the boss of the shares, then she's the boss of the shares.
And she won last time. So it's been a while since they tried this with her. The Pelicans have reached a 2-year deal, and this is a good pickup for them. Benedict Mathurin, he was with the Pacers. And if you look at the Pacers when they lost in the finals, they had Halliburton out for the whole year. Miles Turner got traded to the Bucks. they've had some depreciation there, and this is another spot. And I thought maybe, because Mathurin's very mercurial. He'll have a great game, he'll have a bad game, but he'll have 2 good games, amazing, and then you'll say, where did he go? But when he's playing well, he's playing really, really well. And I was a little surprised that some of the teams that are now, you might be worrying about the Sixers, you might be worrying about some of the teams that the Knicks who won it in the Eastern Conference, or the Spurs and OKC on the other side, you're trying to catch them. I would have thought Mathurin would have had a better go of it, but then he's getting this sentence almost to go to the Pelicans, and we'll see how that goes. Klay Thompson, shooter that played alongside of Steph Curry all those years, who's been bouncing around now for a while. He was in the Dallas Mavericks organization for a bit, didn't really take there. And from what I've said to people is when you have a 3-ball shooter exclusively, Klay Thompson's a 3-ball threat exclusively, doesn't do much else, has a little bit of ability to do something else, but not a ton of it. All right, he's a 3-baller. When that stuff goes, everything goes. So when you have that one skill set, and he was one of the great shooters of the game, no question, but then they kind of can get cold, and they can fall into funks. Just like a golfer will fall into a funk with his swing, you can fall into a funk with your jump shot. And that's happened to him, and it's lasted a really long time. Maybe the change of scenery will help. He's going to the Heat. He's going to be alongside Giannis. Not a bad pickup for the Heat because they had lost Tyler Herro, who was their great shooter. And as we've talked about a lot on our show is, in the NBA, they really strive for spacing, and they really strive for getting their best players as much room as they can. And the only way to do that is to put shooters on the opposite side of them and space the floor. If you put your center out there and he can't make an outside shot, they won't cover him. They'll play in the paint. But when you put Tyler Herro out there, or you put Ray Allen out there, or you put another great shooter out there, you can't be off of him and into the paint because you don't have recovery time. So Klay Thompson is in that kind of category. Great shooter, but the way it's been going for him right now, he's kind of in what we used to call in the Bronx self-check. And nobody got to cover him. He's self-check. He's guarding himself. MVP, prognostications. We've got all the awards and all the prognostications for you right here for MVP next year. Who you think they got number 1, Pete?
Giannis?
Nope.
They're going to give it to LeBron in his final season?
LeBron's not in the top 5.
All right.
Victor Wembanyama.
Wow.
102 of the points that they had. Jokic at the next spot in 2 with only 31 points. They are really, really jumping on Wembanyama, thinking he's going to be the future star of the NBA. I'm not so fast about that, especially watching that Knicks series last year. I think the Knicks solved him a little bit. Doncic in the 3rd spot. SGA, he won it this year. They got him in 4th. And Giannis, as Pete alluded to, is 5th. But, Pete, I'm going to go with you. I'm going to say the guy that I think has the best shot is Giannis.
Yeah.
Going on to a new team, if he can stay healthy. It's all about the health thing with LeBron, with Joel Embiid, with Giannis. If those guys can stay healthy, Steph Curry, they can all stay healthy. They got a couple of more runs here. But if they're going to be old and kind of in and out of the lineup, I don't know how much value they have.
Everybody expected Halliburton to be a big star, and the injuries have plagued him.
The injuries are killing him.
Yeah.
Really killing him. All right, Rookie of the Year prognostication. They got Cam Boozer, number 1. He was the number 3 pick. They have Darren Peterson, number 2. Boozer got 61 votes. This voting a lot closer. Peterson, 56. He was the number 2 pick. A.J. DeBonsa, the guy I think is going to win Rookie of the Year. He got 54 votes, and he was the number 1 pick. And you got Caleb Wilson for the Bulls. Another guy will have a shot because what happens also is what team are you going to?
Yeah.
Do you have a chance to be really, really good on that team, and will you show improvement with that team? I think Caleb Wilson to the Bulls, 32, number 4, could have a shot. They have Darius Acuff, number 5. I'd put Jax Lendeborg in front of him after watching what I saw in that preseason camp. Okay, but Acuff, they have him. He got 3 points, but he was the number 7 draft pick overall, and he's got a shot because the team he's playing on is awful. And he's got a shot because he'll shoot the ball during the national anthem if you let him. So he's going to let it fly. All right. Defensive Player of the Year, Wembanyama, Antetokounmpo, Holmgren, Amen Thompson, Adebayo, and Gobert. Rudy Gobert. I would not put Holmgren on this list after watching what Wembanyama did to him last year. Wouldn't put him on the list. I'd let him come back next year, maybe get on the list again. He's 7'3", but he didn't look it against Wembanyama. He got absolutely destroyed in that series. One of the reasons the Spurs went on and played in the finals, honestly, I wouldn't put Holmgren in there. Amen Thompson every day of the week, Adebayo every day, twice on Sunday. No Holmgren for me. Okay, we got 6-man. Alex Caruso of the Thunder, 34 votes. Dylan Harper of the Spurs, 23. The problem I would have there is I can't see Dylan Harper staying on the bench. He's too good. They're going to have to start him eventually. I don't think he'll be a 6-man candidate. A.J. Mitchell and Reed Shepherd of the Rockets, there in 4th place, got 20 votes. Most improved player this year. These are all prognostications, folks. Stephen Castle, they like him. He has improved, and he's a good pro. I don't know where his ceiling is, how much more room for him to grow, but I'm going to keep an eye on it. Kason Wallace, 32 votes. Dylan Harper, again, voted most improved next year. Boy, that would be something because he had a great year this year. Amen Thompson again, and Kel Elware. I think you're going to see Kel Elware have a monster year because he's a great player. And I don't know what happened with him and Coach Spoelstra, but something went down. And there was a falling apart of the ways. And then for him to be traded the way that he was in this multi deal to bring in Giannis, I think, he's going to have a chance. Coach of the Year, they got Rick Carlisle from the Pacers as Coach of the Year. I don't know how that's possible. They finished almost DFL last year. And they have Halliburton coming back. I get that, but they don't have much else around him. They don't have much else. What else they had was gone. All right, Mitch Johnson of the Spurs, I could see that. Will Hardy of the Jazz, yeah, maybe. He's got to turn this team, though. And then you got Chris Finch of the T-Wolves, don't see it. Nick Nurse, I think of the 5, Nick Nurse has the best shot to be Coach of the Year because the 76ers going to be very good this year.
Yeah, they are.
Scoring champ next year, Luka. They got him with 11 votes. SGA, Edwards from the Timberwolves, and Wemby goes into 4th. All right. Pete and I covered this already with the NCAA going in and really getting into it. There's more controversy that's going on. I just received this from my athletic director before I came over here about this 5-5 thing has become a disaster. It's leading up right into the beginning of the season, and basically what it said was people, because the NCAA now is moving to a 5-by-5 model. You're allowed to stay in school for 5 years, and you're allowed to play for those 5 years, okay? It used to be you had 4 years to play, and they would give you 5, sometimes 6, 7, and 8. Now, we've seen, if you get the injuries and you have contemporaneous issues and different things like that. All good. I don't have a problem with it. But the 5-on-5 thing has become a controversy because what's happening is you had a group of people who went in and sued that said, okay, we didn't get to play last year with a class of 2021. We got 4 years. Now the NCAA is changing. Just why I brought up and alluded to the dunk rule, the Wilt Chamberlain rule, the freshman rule. The reason I did that is because the NCAA was able to change the way they were doing business and didn't have to grandfather anybody in under the old rules. And they, I think, still to this day, if you're going to give them any legislative authority at all, they have to have the ability to change their bylaws, change the way they're doing business, and come up with a more equitable solution. This is what they thought would do it, 5-on-5. I don't know, but now you're getting sued from the class of 2021 who didn't get 5-on-5. They said, well, what about us? You had 4 years, now you're done. And that's what I think is okay to say, is that those were the rules. And you were applied those under the rules just like everybody else was.
You signed up under the current rules.
Historically, right? And that's what you signed up for. Great point, Pete. Great point. But now the 5-on-5 comes in, and they got all these guys who graduated last year suing to try and get in this year again for a 5th year. It's really the suing part of it, man, running for the lawyers every single day, it's really off-putting to me personally. I don't think that the courts and the lawyers and all this other stuff should have as much say and sway as they do right now currently in a lot of places. But, man, this is just insane. And so another judge has come down today, I think I read it right, out of Louisiana saying that you can't have any of these 5-on-5 guys. Some of them have gotten in and gotten deals with their own state. Okay, I'm in this state, so I go to the state court and get an injunction, and the injunction says I can play. But then a federal court comes in and says, no, we're treating all of these guys under the headline, and then we say, okay, they're all going to be able to play, but now this judge comes back and says, I think today, and people can fact check me on this, that nobody's in. So this is bold, and I don't think this is the last shot across the bow either.
Yeah, right.
And what I'm afraid of is somebody's going to come in October when the school year's already started. This thing's going to keep going back and forth and back and forth. And some of these teams, I got to be honest with you, the Bediako thing that was in, with the judge being local and being a donor, to Alabama. I mean, you're going to see a lot more of that. You're going to see a lot more of that, where they're in the courts and they're going to specific courts and they go court shopping. They want to
Yeah,
get
but
into
that's been happening for a while for everything now.
No, I do. And what I say to that, though, Pete, is, do you know that some of these courts have an overturn rate that's over 50%?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure they do.
Like 70%?
Yeah.
Like an over. What kind of court are you? If you're getting overturned 80% of the time, how good are you? Yep. And why aren't you following the law in the first place? Because this takes time, money, all of this stuff to go, and then it's not any better than it was when they started it.
And it's very hard to remove a federal judge.
No, it's near impossible.
Yep.
Near impossible. And, you can the Supreme Court gets involved. By the time you get up there, they do it. And now you have some of these judges, after the Supreme Court comes in, after the Supreme Court levies their decision, these lower-level judges are like, yeah, we're not going to listen to them. We're going to do it our way. And that's more on a federal level and more on the political level. But this stuff right now with the courts on the basketball, because here's the thing, okay? The SEC wants to go with that no pro stuff. And now we're saying, okay, we're not going to have 5-5. But Mark Mitchell of Missouri last year, a guy that I thought, was a late first-round draft pick, second-round draft pick, good player, probably could be a journeyman in the NBA, never going to be a great player based upon his current skill set. But he could make it in the NBA. He's 6'10", he can run, he can jump, he can do some things. They just allowed him to go back and play, and now he's going to go back and play for Kentucky. And it's just, he was at Missouri. The courts just said yes, but then this other judge just said no to everybody. I don't know. You have R.J. Lewis. Remember him from St. John's?
Yep.
Got into it with Coach Pitino at the end. He went out. He got drafted. Then he was traded, and was put on the Celtics. The Celtics sent him to the G League. So this guy shows up like in almost all of the 1, 2, 3 that I read out that they don't want. And Kentucky, as far as I'm aware of, is in the SEC. The guys who are saying we don't want some of this stuff. We're not going to take some of this stuff. And I don't know. They've got it going on right now. All right, Pete, I'm going to give you my top 25 current basketball coaches. Right now, and in the here and now. So if you're a guy who's been around for 40 years like Rick Pitino, we're going to look at the whole totality of things, but we're really heavily favoring right now. What have you done for us lately? All right? And I think it's going to be interesting because we got a pretty good list here that I like. I think if I had more time with it, I might have adjusted it because of the right now. Because I think, like on this list, I'm going to go out and say a mea culpa. I thought maybe you got Mark Painter from Purdue might be a little low on my list, and Sampson. But again, they haven't had that huge success because when you look at the top of this mountain, Pete, a national championship is really, really critical, because so many coaches have it. So here we go at number 1, baby. Danny Hurley, UConn, right now.
Yeah.
He's the number 1. He has back-to-back national titles and just showed up last year in the Final Four. His team right now is loaded and going to be really, really good in the Big East, really, really good nationally. I think he's cooking with gasoline. Okay, Todd Golden of Florida, another young guy who's come up and really taken this thing with the old culture of having, that really good discipline and that really good work ethic towards that mantra of we want to work as hard as anybody in the country. But they've also come into it with this really kind of open-minded skill set on the offensive end, where their teams are very, very almost European-driven, and they run a lot of stuff that, you will see more of it in Europe than you will in the United States. And so credit to both of these guys, and I think that's kind of what's made them a little bit elite in this list for me, is that they've taken on that old culture and been able to kind of merge it with this new dynamic offensive stuff that's out there with all these great players. And I think both those guys, Hurley and Golden, they got Golden as number 1 right now. in the number 1 seed at Florida. I think they probably are the number 1, but I wouldn't sleep on UConn either. And Danny Hurley's ability to get a team together and get them ready is now well proven. Number 3, Rick Pitino, St. John's, been around the block a million times, but man, this guy can coach. I got to say it. He can coach. I don't know if I would want to play for him, because he's a little bit psychotic, if you ask me, But there's the results are there. National championships, Final Fours, Hall of Fame, the whole bit, But St. John's right now, they bit the bullet. A lot of schools wouldn't do it, and St. John's was mired in mediocrity for years and years and years since Lou Carnesecca left there, basically. And there was about a 20-year, the dark ages of St. John's. And then they bit the bullet, and kind of overlooked some of his past transgressions, which obviously, were real. And then they said, we're going to bite the bullet because a lot of these guys aren't perfect either. But at least if we're going to go into the imperfect, we want to find as good as coach as we can, and they did. St. John's is back. St. John's is national, and that's huge for college basketball. Number 4 spot, Bill Self, Kansas. Again, right now, the last couple of seasons have been rough in Kansas. I hope he survives. He's got the number 1 player in the country coming in, but that's a rough business out there. They have tradition, they have history, and they want to win. And when they consider winning at Kentucky, at Duke, at Kansas, they're thinking 35-0. That's what they like. They don't, you lost 2 games. How did we lose those games? That's their mantra. I mean, I love it, but it's also a little bit insane. Tom Izzo, Michigan State, you can't fault him. Just had so many great teams, so many good players, and he's keep doing it. And everybody says, a lot of the coaches ran out, and they've been keeping an eye on Izzo to run out the door too, and he didn't do it. He stayed there. He's got Michigan State national ready to go and solid. Mark Few, Gonzaga, Pete, how can you not?
Yeah.
How can you not, Pete? Great coach, great traditions, and he's taken that little tiny Gonzaga program, and basically he's followed a very, very nice Jewish proverb which says, you have to grow where you are. And Mr. Few has done a great job growing where he is in Spokane, baby. John Calipari, 7. I have mixed emotions about this. Everybody knows that. I don't really love him as an X's and O coach, but when you throw everything into the balance of the scales, and in the balance of the scales is recruiting, I would consider him to be the greatest recruiter in my lifetime. And so that balance of I don't really love the X's and O's, I don't love the way their program operates, but they get the best players in the country.
Yep.
They get the best guys in the country. And one of the things that's really important, especially now, but it always has been, but there's a little bit more emphasis on it now because you're spending money on these players. Years ago you could take in a guy and he didn't turn out and he didn't pan out. Okay, you get rid of him and you get a new scholarship and you send him to Arkansas State. Now there's a lot more scrutiny on this thing. We paid him $2 million and he stinks. That's a different paradigm because you got to talk to the guy who gave you the $2 million. It's not so much the fans anymore. You got to deal with the landlord. So we'll see. Kelvin Sampson, number 8. They're going to have a tough time moving forward, I think. Their league is ruthless. It's a ruthless league. And Houston, he's done a great job getting them up where they are. Can they stay afloat? Can they stay up because everybody else is deluging them right now with the amount of money that they have? Matt Painter, Purdue in the 9th spot. What a great coach. Really went into the finals with Zach Edey. Over time, just did a great job. And Purdue isn't always, the job that you look at. It's not Kansas. It's not Duke. It's not Kentucky. It's not one of those jobs. But Matt Painter has certainly produced. Number 10, Nate Oates. I'm going to give Nate Oates a little shout out here, though. Coach, lay off the 3-ball so much. Everybody has this formula now, and there's the teams that are the highest at this and this and this. They either take the ball all the way to the rim or they shoot a 3-pointer. Nothing in between. All of the mid-range, all of that is not part of their formula. Okay? And what I'm saying to him is, Coach, you ain't playing basketball no more then.
Yeah, bring back basketball.
Let's bring it back. All right? Brad Underwood, Illinois, he's done a great job. The only thing I would say is there's a lot of great players in this country, Coach, and I understand you wanted to Europeanize your team, but you're in Illinois. the center of the United States, and they got players in Chicago and all those surrounding areas that you guys aren't even looking at right now, and you're just going into that portal, into the NIL bag, and you're bringing in mostly European players. I'd like to see them operate with a little bit more of a hybrid there. They've gone completely the other way. Okay, Rick Barnes, Tennessee. The guy has never won it, never taken a big, but man, he's been close. He's had some good teams, and when you add it all up over the course of it, he might even be a little higher. Tommy Lloyd from Arizona, really, really good coach, and just recently in the NIL era, he has seemed to, maybe because Arizona's got a big bag, but he seemed to have been able to jump into that and do well. That's Mark Few's longtime assistant coach. Never had been a head coach before. That was a crazy hire, actually, for Arizona, but they got it done, and he's doing fine there now. I got John Shire in the 14th spot at Duke. He's a great coach. Done a really good job of replacing the biggest of the biggest shoes in the business. All right? But, Coach, your NCAA tournament appearances have gone down the river. You've had leads that we've blown, and I've been a coach a long time. I've had those leads blow. But you're going to have to – I've had those leads blow after I've been 30 years in the hole. Okay, you're new, and everybody's watching you now. You're going to have to get it through all the way to the Final Four and finish strong, where you don't have people questioning you, because Duke's one of those jobs where when they lose, it sets the whole thing off. TJ Otzelberger, Iowa State, great coach. Really, really good coach. And again, tough job, Iowa State. Purdue, tough job. Those aren't the easiest jobs in the world. They're not, really hard jobs like LIU Brooklyn is, but, they're tough, especially given who they got to go up against.
Yeah.
Randy Bennett, he was from St. Mary's, moving over to Arizona State. Check his one-loss record. It's incredible. And he's a little bit in the shadow of Mark Few, because they're the number 1, 2 guys West Coast that are out there. Now he's going to Arizona State. Let's see if he turns that around, because that program has not been strong in a really, really long time. Sean Miller, Texas. If you say Florida has the best team in the country right now, you'd have to give Texas a shot too. I'd say they might be the 1 and 2 right now, and I think that's pretty good for basketball. I'd like to see Sean Miller back in there. Didn't handle didn't fare well in the FBI wiretap scenario, but he's back and he's bouncing. Kevin Willard from Villanova, I really like him as a coach. And what I love is he left Maryland, which seems to be a rough program right now. And for what reason, I don't know. Maybe the move to the Big Ten really scrambled their eggs out there. But Kevin left and went to Villanova, got him turned around. They're going to miss their point guard this year, though. All right, so you got Grant McCasland of Texas Tech. Man, he's put up some really, really good talent and some really, really good teams. Last year they had Christian Anderson, they had Toppin, and they could have had Darian Williams, who's coming back to them now. Had Darian Williams stayed there, that year might have been a completely different scenario for Texas Tech. All right, Freddie Hoiberg, Nebraska, the mayor. He's moved up. He's got it done. Let's keep moving, though, Pete, because I only got about a minute. Eric Musselman, USC. Mick Cronin, he cries way too much for me, but you got to put him on the list. He's done very, very well. Dad was a very famous coach as well. Scott Drew of Baylor, he's got national title, and he's also been in the Final Four, done great stuff, and I like the way he coaches his team. They play good defense. Shaka Smart from Marquette, and I'm going to go last because I really like this guy. Brian Dutcher from San Diego State. Pete, I usually come in with a vanilla folder, but I got a new folder from the wife today, and I like it.
There you
I
go.
like it. I'm going to keep it. This is my In the Zone folder now, baby, so we're stepping up every step of the day here. Folks, thanks for joining us. Thanks for staying with us. Thanks for giving us the reason to come in here every week and give you the show that we give you. And what I want to say here is 26-27 is going to be really exciting. 26-27 is going to be a great year for college basketball, going to be a great year for the NBA. See how that draft class, that was one of the best draft classes in a while, goes in and mitigates that rough NBA season, but that's going to be fun to watch as well. We're going to be watching LeBron. We're going to be watching Joel Embiid and see if their knees hold up. But Pete and I are going to bring it to you straight down the line. Pete, great job today with the 1, 2, 3 Pete's Corner questions. Awesome. Next week, folks, we'll see you in the zone, baby.